Hello, I'm Claire and welcome to my channel. So today's video is going to be a perfume tray for February. I'm going to pick 10 fragrances for my collection to concentrate on during February, and I'm also going to review the fragrances that I ended up reaching for most throughout January. If you haven't seen me before, I talk all about fragrance on this channel, and I really love talking about perfume history, perfume science, perfume psychology, and I also just do some straight perfume reviews, these monthly trays, and also I love doing perfume tags, although I haven't done one recently. Definitely overdue a perfume tag. So let's get on with this. What was I reaching for most in January? So January started off with me mostly reaching for my newer fragrances in my collection, and I did wear Andalusian Sun by Merchant of Venice and also Shalimar L'Essence a few times at the beginning of the month, but then I tried to make myself wear the rest of my tray, and I did succeed apart from one fragrance. The one that I didn't end up wearing was Pomegranate Noir by Jo Malone. I'd rolled that one over from my December tray when I still hadn't worn it in December, and I feel a bit disappointed that I didn't actually get round to wearing that one, but you know, that happens sometimes. So the other fragrances that I ended up reaching for a lot in January were really things that I was trying to refamiliarise myself with. And those were, firstly, Memo Maderai. So Memo Maderai is a fragrance that I got free when I got another fragrance, a full bottle of fragrance. This is just a 5ml sample. And I've been trying it out again in January, and I think I've come to the conclusion this is not one that I would want a full bottle of. I quite enjoy having this 5ml sample vial. I think that's about the right amount of this for me. So that's Memo Maderai. The other two fragrances that I wore quite a lot during January were Guerlain's Mon Guerlain. I think this is just a perennial favourite. This is something I always come back to. I just love that tonka. I love that sort of touch of licorice in this fragrance. I love the softness of the lavender. Just a really beautiful fragrance, signature worthy, and something that I think even if I finish this bottle of fragrance, which is looking pretty lightly now, I've probably got about 7ml left, I think I probably will repurchase this one. I love it so much. So that's Guerlain's Mon Guerlain. And the other fragrance that I wore quite a lot during January, the final one, was Armani C. So this one I just love for the blackcurrant. The blackcurrant is the thing that keeps me coming back to this one. It's so rare to smell in fragrances because I think it's just not a universally loved note, isn't it? Blackcurrant. It's something that a lot of people find very difficult. And I have the older version of this, which has blackcurrant more front and centre than the newer version. And this one I just find very syrupy and deep and sweet, and it's so long lasting too. This is something I will smell the next day on my clothes. I just love this fragrance. I think it's one of the best designer fragrances. Nowadays, probably the Intense is more similar to this original EDP. But yeah, just a stunner, this one. So that's C by Armani. So next, what's on my tray for February? And I really do apologise. I've got really bad sinusitis again right now. So I'm hoping that's going to go. But I've had it for over a week now. And it's really annoying because I can't really film too much when I've got this, which is why you didn't see a video midweek last week. But hopefully this will pass. So for February, I really want some of my absolute favourites on my tray this month. It's my birthday month, and I want some things that are going to give me lots of joy. I want some happy feeling fragrances. I also want some purple feeling fragrances, some spring-like fragrances, but also some winter appropriate fragrances. Because usually in the UK, February involves a bit of a cold snap, but also I want something very professional smelling because I'm going to be interviewing at work for students to undertake undergraduate degrees. So hopefully I've covered all bases with my choices for February's tray. So the first fragrance is a fragrance I always find joyful, and it's one that I don't often reach for, and I always smell it again and I'm amazed that I haven't worn it in so long. And I picked this one up the other day and I thought, yeah, that needs to be on my tray. This is the first one that I wanted to put on my tray this month. So this is Guerlain Insolence, and I have the EDP version. I think they have rebottled this, but I think it's pretty much the same fragrance. So this is really easy to explain, this one. It's a powdery sweet violet fragrance. It smells literally like a vintage sweet shop. It smells like Parma violets, if you've ever had those kinds of sweets. Just a really lovely powdery sweet fruity violet, and it just has this modern vintage kind of feel to it. But yeah, this one I think is just a classic now. It's been on the market, I think, for nearly 20 years, this, and I think that just shows its immense popularity. This one is super strong as well. If you want something that's going to last a long time, going to project, then definitely choose Insolence. I just think it's a really happy, joyful feeling spring kind of fragrance. That's Insolence. So the next fragrance is one from Tom Ford, and I would say this one is definitely on the darker side of purple smelling fragrances. If you think about Insolence as being a very innocent smelling kind of purple floral, then you could think of Velvet Orchid as being a more sensual, dark, mysterious kind of fragrance. So this one has loads of bold florals, which to me makes this a very spring appropriate fragrance, but this one works really in the winter and also in the autumn very well. I think this fragrance is just another favourite in my collection that I just don't wear enough. And that's why this one's going on my tray this month, but also because I think this one works perfectly around Valentine's Day. This will probably be my Valentine's Day fragrance. So this one I just find sweet, it's got honey, it's got rum, and it's also got a ton of florals. Really, primarily it's the orchid, the fantasy orchid note that comes through the most. But you do smell the bold florals if you sniff this up close, and that's what I love about this one, the complexity of the florals here. Alongside the slightly drier feeling sandalwood in the dry down, and the texture of the suede as well comes through. But yeah, it's the resins that are the thing that makes this one super special along with the florals. So that's Velvet Orchid by Tom Ford. So this next fragrance I'm again picking because it's slightly purple smelling, but also because I find it quite retro, which I will explain a little bit later. So this one is Musc Noir Rose by Narciso Rodriguez. So this fragrance I think is just a real easy reach for a lot of people. It's been incredibly popular, and it's something that I think smells purple to me because of the plum here, but the plum is really supported by the floral notes. It's got a lovely slight powderiness, the plum here, but it's still quite syrupy and sweet. Alongside that rose, and then in the dry down there's that slightly creamy, slightly vanillic feeling musk. I think the musk here smells super white. It smells literally like white musk from the Body Shop in the 90s. That's what this fragrance reminds me of in the dry down. If you take away all the fruitiness, all the florals, the musk is pretty much spot on for how white musk used to smell in the 90s. I know white musk has changed loads over the years, and I was thinking about it the other day because Body Shop relaunched their Dewberry fragrance. I don't know whether you've seen that or whether anybody's tried it out there. I don't know whether it's still the same. I'm so intrigued to go and try that fragrance and just smell the memories of the 90s. But yeah, this one for me was really inspired by that relaunch. That's what made me want to put this one on my tray this month, alongside the fact that it smells purple and I'm in a purple kind of mood. So that's Musc Noir Rose. So the next fragrance is the fragrance that I'm going to be wearing when I'm interviewing students for their undergraduate places for university. And I always feel so nervous for those students coming because I know their chances of getting a place is super low. I think for our course, it's something like 2.5% of students that we actually interview are given a space. So, you know, I always want to be as friendly and nice and positive with them as possible, to just set off an atmosphere of warmth and professionalism, but still to be friendly and open. So this one is Coco Mademoiselle Intense by Chanel. And this fragrance is really Coco Mademoiselle, but without any rough edges. It's a softened version of Coco Mademoiselle. Coco Mademoiselle can be quite a fierce smelling fragrance. It's quite a strong citrus patchouli fragrance with just that sort of rose in the dry down really. But really this one is much more rose. It's much less citrus. It's a softer feeling patchouli, and it's also much more vanilla. But it's still super professional, and I think this fragrance will work really well for those interviews. It's also super long lasting too, like all Chanel fragrances pretty much. So yeah, Coco Mademoiselle Intense. So the next fragrance is again one for work, and I had loads of writing to do last month, and when I'm writing I just end up snacking in my office. It's just something that happens. So I thought I'm going to put some Gourmands on my tray this month, and I'm going to try and distract myself with smells of food to stop me from just eating biscuits. So the one that I'm going to try that with is this one, Masque Milano's Lost Alice. So I bought this back in November and I haven't worn it so far, and I'm really looking forward to wearing this again. I had a sample of it and I just want to move on to the bottle now. So this one is a very realistic smelling gourmand fragrance, but it's definitely not a super sweet gourmand. This is very much an English tea party kind of fragrance. It makes me think of Victorian tea parties. It's traditional English food, so scones, buttered scones, cold buttered scones with a cup of tea, and then later on you get more of like a traditional English cake kind of smell. So things like tea breads, perhaps things like walnut cake, but definitely things that are unglazed, without icing, something less sugary, something slightly more traditional. I just think this one is stunning. It really captures its inspiration. It really takes me to a place, and I love that about this fragrance. So that's Lost Alice by Musc Milano. So this next fragrance I've been inspired to wear from trying some fragrances last month. I tried out Essential Perfumes, and one of those fragrances really reminded me of this fragrance. So this one is Jorum Studio's Unspoken Gesture. I find this fragrance just so perplexing and interesting and different and slightly weird even, but just so wearable. This opens with cardamom, it's sparkly, it's nutty, and it's also cool smelling initially. There's also some mimosa, so you've got some powderiness, some sweetness, but also this fragrance has a milky aspect to it, it has a ricey aspect. It does make me think of the smell you get when you open a new bag of basmati rice, a really fragrant, aromatic bag of rice. It also makes me think of those Indian desserts you get at Indian weddings, so things like fearni, if you've ever had that kind of flavoured rice pudding you get at Indian weddings. Delicious. It is a delicious feeling fragrance, but it's more of a savoury gourmand fragrance than a sweet gourmand fragrance. There are sweeter aspects to this one. Just so much going on with this fragrance, and it was definitely a bit of a favourite last year. So that's Unspoken Gesture by Jorum Studio. So the next fragrance is one from the Les Notes Gourmand line for Reminiscence, and this one is Heliotrope. So I've owned all three of these fragrances. I own Dragé, I own Guimauve, and this is the one that I bought first. This is the one that got me interested in the line and made me want to buy the other two because it was so good. This one is a marzipan fragrance really in the dry down, but it's all about that kind of creamy almondy heliotrope which dries down into that marzipan. But also there's a real freshness to this fragrance initially from the fig. The fig is quite milky and it does smell a little bit green. It is that kind of pastel green, creamy kind of smell that you would imagine from looking at the bottle. This fragrance also has a little bit of a spice to it. I think there must be some nutmeg here or something like that that gives it a kind of almost vanilla custard kind of smell, like when you buy an egg custard tart, that kind of smell. But also there's a cakiness to this, and it actually makes me think of carrot cake even in the dry down of this fragrance. I just find this one delicious. It's not super sweet, it's not sugary, but it definitely is a sweet gourmand fragrance overall. I think Reminiscence have rebottled this fragrance now, and it's in a clear or perhaps a white bottle. I think they have relaunched this line. It doesn't look like this anymore, but I definitely would recommend this fragrance. So this is Heliotrope by Reminiscence. So the next fragrance is a second one from Tom Ford on my tray this month. This one may challenge for birthday fragrance. I feel like this one will be worn around the latter half of this month. My husband bought this one for me for my birthday a few years back, and I really feel like I've neglected it. I've not worn it as much as I should have done because it's a delicious fragrance, and I think it really shines in the wintertime. That's why I'm putting it on my tray this month, because I know that I won't reach for this one in summer. So this one is Tom Ford Noir pour Femme, and I think if you want something similar to this, because it is so long discontinued, there are fragrances in the Noir line that do smell quite similar to this. And I think this one is really still my favourite, but I think there are some standout fragrances in this line still, if you do want to investigate them. So this one, I think the thing people love is the dry down, but the opening is not easy at all. It's a bitter citrus and ginger opening. There's also some mastic, and the mastic is a smell that I think people aren't used to. It's a very kind of textured smell, and it's quite dry. It's slightly green, slightly yellow smelling, and I think people find that really challenging in this fragrance. But I think that's just key to its beauty. That's key to why this fragrance works. So the dry down is a super sweet, creamy, vanilla kulfi fragrance. It's absolutely delicious. If you love kulfi ice cream, you will love this fragrance. But yeah, it's still got that spicy kick from the opening, and it's just a stunner. It's a deep, dark, spicy fragrance, this one, but just so creamy, so vanillic, and just something that I think suits this time of year perfectly. So that's Noir pour Femme by Tom Ford. So the next fragrance I chose because I was initially wanting to put Givenchy L'Once de Rouge on my tray, and then I thought, no, I'm going to put my birthday fragrance on the tray. So I bought this one for my birthday a few years back, and it's really something that I'd wanted for a very long time. I'd tried it, fell in love with it the moment I smelt it, and this one, I just had to have it. So this one is Bouquet Encore by L'Orchestre Parfums. So L'Orchestre Parfums, I've tried a lot of their fragrances, and I just absolutely adore this one. I think really this is my favourite of their entire line. And this one, I think if you do like Givenchy L'Once de Rouge, you will definitely see massive overlap with this fragrance. I tried this one actually before I tried Givenchy L'Once de Rouge. And, you know, going back to L'Once de Rouge, I just think that fragrance is slightly less complex than this one. This one's slightly more challenging because it has a very peppery opening, and the pepper stays throughout the whole fragrance really. It's a very hot, spicy feeling kind of pepper, slightly earthy feeling as well. But that gives this fragrance just a quite kind of almost firecracker feel. It feels exciting and different. And I think, you know, with Givenchy L'Once de Rouge, there is that spiciness, but it's very toned down. It's very mild, isn't it, the spiciness there. This one too, I think the spice brings out the creaminess of the florals. It brings out the creaminess in the tuberose and the jasmine, and also the creaminess of the vanilla. And the muskiness in the dry down is just stunning. Again, I've been saying this quite a lot in this video, and I don't normally use this word a lot about fragrances, but I just think this one has a sexiness about it. I think this fragrance was so successful for L'Orchestre Parfums that they've launched a new version, haven't they? They've launched, I think it's called Latte. I'm really intrigued to smell that one, but I haven't done so far. If anybody's tried that fragrance, please let me know how it smells. But yeah, I absolutely love this original one. So that's L'Orchestre Parfums Bouquet Encore. So the final fragrance on my tray this month is one that I absolutely love, but I hardly wear. And I think that's because it's so sweet and so sticky. And that's definitely a mood for me. So this one is Scandal by Night. And I remember I bought this when I first started my channel. And clearly I bought this when I had no concept of how long it takes me to use up a fragrance, because I got an 80ml bottle. That's a huge bottle. So this is really a super sweet, sticky cherry and honey fragrance. But that's offset by some slightly more bitter notes in this fragrance. So there's nard here. And whilst that's not strong, it just takes the edge off the super sweet stickiness and makes it more wearable. There's also quite a strong patchouli base here, and there's also an underlying hum of some white florals with a tuberose. This is a very rich smelling fragrance, and this is definitely a fragrance I think of around the time of Valentine's Day and also the winter time. This definitely does smell a bit retro now. It's quite an old fragrance. I think it was released in 2018. It does have a bit of a 2010s twang about it. And I think this is probably quite out of fashion nowadays, but I think if you like deep syrupy fragrances, this is one to reach for now. So that's Scandal by Night by Jean-Paul Gaultier. So that's the final fragrance on my tray for February. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have enjoyed it, then please do press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. And please do let me know which fragrances you've been wearing during January, and also what you've been reaching for during February. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.